I'm Jose Gutierrez, he, him, his. And I think can you correct me if this is wrong? Is this our first in-person speakers event since the before times?
Yes.
Okay, wow. That is really cool. So this is really a privilege to be back in front of you guys. I know probably some of you have gone to some speaker series in a remote fashion, so it's really awesome. I think one of the good things that came out of it is that we're really fortunate to have Humberto here all the way. Looks like he's got the Campanile in the background from Berkeley, so that's really exciting. Oh, we can't see when he talks. Will he be the thing up here? Okay, yeah, okay, great. So anyways, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Humberto. So his title is a project engineer, and his presentation is going to be Dream Big. We're really fortunate to have him here with us today. I'm really excited because this is also one of our first engineers in the Science in Action speaker series. So thanks, Humberto, for coming and speaking to us. He was born in Jalisco, Mexico, and then landed in Napa when he was 2 years old. He's always worked hard, and at 27, he embarked on his academic journey. I know probably a lot of us could maybe identify that. Not only that, is he started at Napa Valley College on his journey to become a civil engineer, and he transferred to UC Berkeley. That's another path that I took as well as a transfer student. So here you guys are sitting. He's been in your path. He's walked your shoes, and he's going to show you that it's possible. So I'm really excited to have him today. It's hard to get into Berkeley. There's only a 19% acceptance rate, but Humberto crushed it. He completed his bachelor's in civil and environmental engineering, went on to pursue his master's. So that's what he's doing right now. He's got great financial support. So he was able to get he was able to get a bunch of financial awards, which is really fantastic. So if you work hard, people will reward it. And that's, I think, something that is going to be shown today, is that if you keep pushing and working hard, that will be recognized. And he's now in his final semester of his master's program, and he's already got a job. So that's awesome. Congrats, Humberto. He's accepted a full-time employment at Excel Construction. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our guest speaker. I'm really excited today to hear what he has to share with us. So let's give him a warm welcome, guys.
All righty, it's finally working, right? Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Let me share my screen and we'll go from there. All righty. Perfect. All right. Let me move some stuff out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to do something a little bit different, because I remember what it was like going to community college and then thinking about having 2 more years to go. So I'm gonna do a little bit of storytelling with also some motivation. So it was previously mentioned. I was born in Ciudad Guzman, Jalisco, Mexico. In 1988, my mother and I left Mexico and arrived in the US. So I was 2 years old when my mother fled across the Tijuana border. With a sobbing infant in one hand, while the other clenched, she catapulted toward the future. An hour later, she stumbled upon a nearby neighborhood. As the sirens howled and the lights closed in, she dropped boldly on the curb and pretended to play with me outside of our home. At that moment, a white and green Ford LTD Crown Victoria fishtailed onto the street and interrupted our playtime. I can't imagine what a 24-year-old girl felt as she stared this foreign official in the eyes. Her heart must have stopped, knowing her fate had come to an end, like the dozens of others detained that day. After regaining consciousness, she realized that the officer was trying to communicate with her, but was halted by the language barrier. My mother said it got quiet for a couple of minutes, and then, with a forgiving look, he kindly muttered, "Hurry up and go, they're coming." I don't know what touched his heart that day, but that man gave my mother and I an opportunity at life. So growing up in the US, I never understood the differences between my previous home in Mexico and my new home in Napa, California. Stories about life in Mexico were just something that was brought up during the dinner time, and that was the end of that. I remember having a great childhood. My parents did everything they could to provide for me, and they often spoke about how fortunate we were to have come to America. So immigrating definitely had its pros. However, immigrating to the US also had its cons, as it affected my relationship with my parents as I started growing up. Unable to legally work, both of my parents worked multiple jobs under the table to make ends meet, which revealed a new level of freedom to me in my early teens. With this unsupervised level of freedom, I began to seek guidance for direction in the wrong environments, which ultimately led to a loss of innocence and an introduction to a group mentality. I began associating myself with well-known gang members and began to make fast money through gang activity. Unfortunately, this environment became my new way of life for the next 14 years. So instead of focusing on school, I spent my teens and mid-20s fighting court cases. And in that type of environment, it is very difficult to do well in anything. The only reason I graduated high school was because my English teacher, Mrs. Lamont, took me under her wing and pushed me to succeed. It was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever experienced, but it introduced me to perseverance. In addition, I ended up failing pre-algebra my senior year of high school because I didn't know how to study or even what a tutor was until my first year of community college. In the midst of all this, I learned that I was an illegal alien, a prejudice term I refused to let define me, around my 17th birthday, when I was unable to attend the senior trip to Mexico or attain a driver's license. It wasn't until that point that I began to feel different from everyone else. Being able to legally drive or work was very difficult, but I never allowed myself to sit at home and do nothing with my life. So I took my chances and drove in order to make money working under the table. When I was around 22 years old, I received temporary legal status, but it was later revoked. I remember reading the revocal letter in the presence of my family and friends. My voice began to fade as the words denial and deportation mingled in the uncommon sentence. The room got very quiet, and my facial expression said it all. Due to the emotional overload I was experiencing, the rest of the letter might as well have been written in Hebrew. I vividly remember how sadness and outrage stormed the room, yet my mother, who's been a progressive member at church for years, looked at me, smiled and said, "This is happening for a reason, son. The Lord is trying to teach you something." "Teach me something," I replied. "Yes," she said, "he's trying to teach you a valuable lesson." My eyebrows caved in and I said, "Well, if he cared that much, he wouldn't have put me in this situation to begin with." What I didn't realize at the time was that she was absolutely right. In the weeks to come, I lost my job, which left me with a lot of financial responsibilities like a car payment, a cell phone bill, credit card bill, insurance, what have you. As you can imagine, I was devastated as my world and the little I had acquired in my life crumbled before my eyes. My back was thrown against the wall where it remained as I watched my belongings disappear. I fell into depression, but I hid it due to my macho upbringing and cultural values. As the months passed, my anger isolated me and I became very cynical about life. I victimized myself and I began pointing the finger at everyone whose fault I thought it was. Until one day, a dear family friend introduced my family and I to The Secret, a film produced by Primetime Productions, which repeatedly demonstrates the power of the law of attraction, whose basic principle is that thoughts become reality. Halfway through the film, it dawned on me that this whole time I was attracting negativity and all the things that I did not want. In a particular segment of the film, the directors displayed this quote on the screen: "All that we are is the result of what we have thought." This quote was one of the many in the film that released me from the limitations of fear that I've adopted from my insecurities and society, and it began to force negativity out of my mind. Because to Buddha, the human mind is the universe, and our perception is the key. So as time passed, I ended up dating a Caucasian girl whose family lived in a wealthy area of town. I became very close with the family, and throughout that time, her grandmother, Diane Week, a retired elementary school teacher, kept pressing the idea of community college into my head. Looking back, I realized that she saw something in me that no one else had. I remember pressing back in opposition through laughter because internally, I didn't feel smart enough to pursue a higher education. I barely graduated high school, and fractions and decimals were rocket science to me. I also struggled a lot with reading and comprehension, which has gotten a lot better, but I still do struggle sometimes. After multiple conversations, Mrs. Week ended up convincing me into further education. 2 weeks before my first semester at the local community college, I remember how bad my nerves rattled my body. I was deathly afraid of this journey. I contemplated it so much that I almost backed out, but I asked myself, how do you know you're not good at school? Have you ever truly applied yourself 100%? And the honest answer was no. I thought about that for several days until it became reassuring, almost therapy-like. So finally, I convinced myself that if I worked hard, there was no way I could lose. And so I pushed forward, and to my surprise, I was right. My interest in STEM began during community college while taking my first chemistry course. As a 27-year-old first-generation college student, I had no idea what I was doing, but one of the best professors that I ever had captured my attention with his style of teaching, Dr. Fall. And throughout my time in community college, he would end up becoming somewhat of a mentor to me. However, while taking my first chemistry course, I still hadn't become interested in STEM yet. I was attracted to the discipline that STEM courses require students to apply in order to gain a full understanding of the material. The new and challenging concepts not only became the discipline that began to transform my mind and character, these concepts also lent the discipline that I lacked in my life. It forced me to read, it forced me to go to bed early and wake up early, and it also forced me to join study groups and be social. So I'm sure you guys can relate. Well, with this newfound love for learning, I devoted all my time to community college while sleeping on my mother's couch. I was also the last to leave the math center. I know this because the janitor would kick me out at 11:30 p.m. and then I would head to Starbucks for another 2 hours. Friday nights, I was studying. Saturday and Sunday mornings, I would head to Starbucks or the library and study until 5 p.m. I had to work extra hard to understand the different materials. You have to remember, I basically had to redo high school and community college. Also, I knew that if I wanted to attend a university, that had to have competitive grades, so I had to live and breathe school. So in order to pay for community college, I had to take up almost any type of job to pay for classes, food, and bills. I did landscaping, flagstone, babysitting, window cleaning, house cleaning with my mother, and residential painting, because my legal status prevented me from qualifying for financial aid. It was a very humbling time in my life that I am grateful for going through because it grounded me and it made me appreciate school even more. A few years later, a student counselor by the name of Alex Guerrero informed me about the BOG fee waiver and told me that I was eligible for it. I was given all my out-of-pocket tuition money back, and I believe it was God's way of rewarding me for my hard work. So upon graduating from community college and driven by my desire to learn, I applied to 4 universities and was accepted into all 4. So you can imagine how emotional this was for me. And you guys will experience this too. I also worked a lot with a wonderful transfer representative from UC Berkeley named Jenna Clayton. And I will never be able to thank her enough for this opportunity because it has changed my life forever. As many or some of you may know, transfer representatives come to your community colleges a few times a month. So go and meet with them and let them know that their school is your dream school and start working on a program to get you there. Also, they will review your personal statement and modify it for you so that it captures the attention of those who will be reading it. So it really increases the chances of you getting accepted into your dream university. So while we're on this topic, I just want to say that it's so important that you highlight who you are in your personal statement and all the things that you love to do. There seems to be this false idea that universities only take 4.0 GPA, never seen the sunlight, completely antisocial robots, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. Yes, they are looking for smart people, whatever that means, but they are most interested in driven, passionate, lively people that will enhance the social atmosphere on campus. So be you. If you like playing guitar, then tell them, paint the best picture of yourself. So why did I choose Cal? I chose Cal because of its reputation for difficulty. I think I kind of enjoy suffering it a bit. I knew that if I wanted to stand out in the job market, I needed to choose a school that was going to break me and rebuild me. And boy, did it do just that. The previous math professor at my community college, who had the reputation around campus for teaching at a university level, asked me why I would do such a thing. Instead of attending an easier school and being the smartest person in the room, I told him there's no satisfaction in taking the easy route in life. The hard route is where character is built. Plus, eventually, we all have to come across difficult situations in life, so I want to have a fighting chance. So he stopped, he crossed his arms, and sagged his brows, and he said, okay, while nodding his head. I haven't visited my community college since I left, but I plan on going back and having some words with him. So for me, the transition from community college to Cal was very difficult. It's really hard coming from a broken home where guidance, and tutors, and money aren't there to fit and mold you into the ideal traditional student. but I never allowed that to stop me. Even though I notoriously compared myself to others my first year and a half at Cal and got to experience a hefty dose of the imposter syndrome. Before I proceed, I just want to say something. I want you guys to learn to love yourselves and what you have to offer, because that is exactly what helped me grow as a student and a person. Do not make the same mistake I did. You're all going to graduate from your dream university and go on to become professionals in your field. It's just something that we all kind of have to go through. So in addition, the transition from community college to Cal being difficult, I was placed in removal proceedings by the Department of Homeland Security 6 years before I transferred to Berkeley. My final court hearing occurred during my first year at Cal, so you can imagine how facing deportation, along with the academic rigor at UC Berkeley, impacted my grades. At times, I felt like giving up because I thought, what is the point? If I get deported, there goes all my hard work these last few years. But I wanted to believe that everything was going to work out. This amount of overload from life and school introduced me to my first real dose of anxiety. It got so out of hand that I developed insomnia for an entire month. I had to seek professional help. I spent days contemplating dropping out, but I viewed the lack of commitment as an insult to those who believed in me, and so I had to keep pushing forward. So after learning how to deal with anxiety and beating my insomnia through mindful breathing meditation, which is what they recommended, things began to get better for me. My grades improved significantly, and I began to enjoy school. I also joined a transfer program from community college, for community college students, called T-Prep a few months before I transferred to Cal, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It's a transfer pre-engineering program that will introduce you to Berkeley lifestyle as a student. They give you assignments to do that mimic the rigor at Berkeley, so you can start becoming familiar with the transfer. However, that's not the best part. The best part is the beautiful people, in my case, those on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, who you will meet and eventually become some of your long life friends. I can't begin to tell you how much time we have spent together studying, probably more than we should have. But the support system was priceless. We have gone through every set of emotions together. We still hang out as much as we can, even though life has become so busy for many of us, but we are always there for one another. We helped each other get through some very difficult times, and if it wasn't for them, I honestly don't know if I would have made it. So Tiffany Reardon, who runs the ESS Center, so Engineering Student Services, would be the person to email about T-Prep. And the ESS Center is another amazing program at Berkeley, where every generation of transfer students has gone to do homework, study, and hang out. They offer you study rooms, snacks, pizza, and free tutoring in all of the courses that you will be taking. So you have to take advantage of this. It's such a great place. In addition, your counselors also have offices in the same building, so you can really kill multiple birds with one stone. So if you transfer to Berkeley, I highly, highly recommend that you take advantage of both T-Prep and the ESS Center. So higher education, but more so STEM, has provided me with the opportunities that I never had available to me anywhere else. It has removed letdowns and broken promises by people outside of academia, but most importantly, STEM has given me back exactly what I put in because it holds me accountable to this day. And honestly, Cal has given me part of my youth back. I've made long-lasting friendships with students I should have had as friends when I was younger. You know, joining clubs such as ASCE and Steel Bridge have been very rewarding as well. They have allowed me to develop new skills like welding, and they have helped me build my communication skills. I've also created long-lasting relationships with many of my professors. There are so many I could name, and I strongly encourage you to attend office hours and get to know them. Although they are highly intelligent people, which can be very intimidating, they are also people just like you and me. And you would be surprised as to how much they will tell you and open up to you once they get familiar with your face. So during my undergrad, I met a professor who has recently retired by the name of Bill Ives. I remember the first day in CE 167, engineering project management. This tall man walks in with some freshly ironed khaki pants, some nice dress shoes, a crisp plaited tucked in shirt, and a gold watch. And I said to myself, this man means business. You can tell he knows his stuff, just to keep it PG. You have to remember that I'm much older than you guys, so I come from a generation that admires that kind of presentation. It was in that class that I became exposed to all different types of construction, but specifically heavy civil, which are mainly government-funded projects that involve the construction of bridges, dams, tunnels, water treatment plants, and all that big stuff. And it was in this class that I fell in love with construction, but specifically the strategic planning that goes into acquiring satisfactory results for everyone involved in the project. So during my undergrad, I worked for a telecommunications contractor, which gave me field experience while working closely with the field team and construction manager. It introduced me to the lingo that is used in the field, and it taught me how to read construction drawings, use AutoCAD, and again, learn how to communicate with others, which I cannot stress how important this will be for you to develop. I think the most valuable thing you will ever do in your life is build relationships, communicate, and have an optimistic attitude. Those three are more important than getting straight A's to me, which I still encourage you to do, because people not only have to like you, but they also have to like working with you. And I can't tell you how many times I have gotten job offers over someone who was so much more qualified than me academically, just because I was able to build rapport with the interviewer and make them laugh. And this holds true in any relationship if you think about it. All right, so after graduating from my undergrad, I went to work for a heavy civil contractor by the name of Disney Construction as a project engineer and got to work on a bridge, which was really interesting and challenging. I learned so much and met some incredible people, especially the craft workers. They will teach you more about construction than any textbook. They are a wealth of knowledge, and if they become familiar with you, just like your professors, they will be more than happy to share that knowledge with you. With this new exposure of the industry, I became interested in project management, which involves the managing of human resources, so people, space, finances, time, materials, and equipment. So leading and motivating an ambitious team to achieve project goals within the given constraints is something that, as Professor Ibbs would say, really gets my gears going. So I decided to apply to the Engineering and Project Management Master's Program at UC Berkeley. And to my surprise, I was accepted with a full ride scholarship. This program has been amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with some truly driven and experienced individuals who have helped me develop my skills even more. The professors I have met in the program have also been amazing. They're all really passionate about what they do, and they're here to watch you succeed. So I encourage all of you to continue your education after you graduate from your undergrad program. The amount of doors that open up is unbelievable. I have companies reaching out to me for jobs, so it really turns the tables around. Let's see. So my plan after graduation, I have a really nice job lined up, as was mentioned earlier, as a project engineer with the determination of becoming a project executive someday at Excel Construction. So that is very exciting to me. Don't tell them this, but I plan on taking over a Santa Barbara-based construction company with two of my best friends from T-Prep in about 5 to 7 years. I also plan on creating a program back home, which will help connect disadvantaged communities with the right resources and information so that future generations can start thinking and planning for college. Because sadly, the gap that hindered me and my family from understanding the possibilities I had for my future still exists today. It's about 3 decades later, and it shouldn't. So to finish, my life has been complicated and challenging, and it will continue to be complicated and challenging because that's how life is. However, working hard, having faith, and believing in yourself provides clarity. It has shaped my character. And you know what? My mother was right. You know, God did teach me valuable lessons. He's given me faith, patience, vulnerability, humility, love, wisdom, knowledge, family, and friendships. He's taught me that we don't start living until we've lost everything, and that life is not hard. We just make it hard. He's removed bad acquaintances and materialism just to show me that isolation can be a beautiful thing. Or as the great Henry David Thoreau once wrote, I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude. So solitude has also given me clarity and has opened my eyes to the wealth that we as a society overlook because we are so blinded by materialism and money. I believe my parents' journey, no matter how ultimately rewarding, was founded on departure and deprivation, but it has secured for the subsequent generation, myself, a sense of arrival and advantage. And that is it. So now I want to know about you guys.
We were muted, so can we give you another, let's give Humberto another round, because I don't know if Well, thank you. That was extremely like motivating. I don't know if you guys are like me. I was sitting there riveted. I think one of the things I'm thinking of as we start to open it up to questions is a lot of you might be sitting here listening to Humberto, so well spoken, so put together, and you might not even today, sitting in your seat, see how you could possibly be Humberto. But look at the journey, the path he took. He's overcome so many things that even a lot of us, you think, oh, I've got it hard. And then you realize there's always somebody who's got it even harder and working really hard. But that's gonna be you, right? Like you guys are on his path. You just gotta keep your head down and get there. So it's really inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us, and really appreciate that. Does anybody just, let's open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions about really anything, right? Life, whatever, Berkeley, transfer, all of it is on the table. Yeah, Jordan's got a question. And speak up loud so that Humberto can hear it.
What kind of projects have you worked on at Excel Construction so far? Like some of your favorites?
So at Excel, I start with them the first week of June. So I haven't done anything with them. One of my best friends, he's currently at that company working on the Google project in Sunnyvale, but I haven't been on site yet.
Oh, right, yeah. Awesome. And then, yeah, questions.
What internships or jobs have you done in the field so far? Like, do you have any work experience in the field?
Yeah, so when I was younger, my father used to take me because he started as a laborer and worked up to a superintendent for a commercial construction company. So I was always kind of around it, and he'd always take me to do the labor and the grunt work. But then once I got here, I actually hadn't done an internship until like halfway through my undergrad. I worked for the CBR Group, it's the telecommunications based company. And with them, I got to do a lot. I got to work, like I said, with the construction manager. I got to work with a lot of the logistics and planning, a lot of the reading the drawings. I had to create drawings. So that was to the extent of that company. I was there. I did 3 internships with them. I also, before the pandemic hit, I interviewed with DPR, and I got an internship with them. But as soon as the pandemic hit, they rescinded that offer, so I was unable to actually do the internship with them.
Good questions. And I think if you're in the crowd, you might be able to put it in the chat. Olivia can say them when we get it. Okay, we're getting a question from Ramiro in the crowd. It says, did you ever feel like you weren't smart enough for engineering? And if so, what made these feelings disappear? I'm sure the answer is probably going to be yes.
Oh man, like I said, I compared myself a lot, and I saw kids that were truly intelligent. And yeah, I mean, to answer, yeah, I didn't feel smart, but I knew, like you mentioned, is that I had to work hard, right? I had to work harder. And what I learned is that by working harder, you learn how to stay in the race longer. Because there's people that are very intelligent, but when it gets tough, they give up quick. And I'm still in the race with my head down, working hard. And to my surprise, I got an A in the class and they got a B. And I'm trying to figure out why. But it's because, it's just, you have to make up through grit. But I did have 2 years of it, like 2.5 years of just straight every day. I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart. But then I just learned, you know what? I have something to offer. I'm very personable. I know how to communicate. This very intelligent person next to me is not very social at all, so everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. You have to learn to love yourself, and just keep working hard. Hard work, it truly does beat talent, and it will take you very, very far in life.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a truism for sure. And it's a healthy, I think, balance too, right? Of like, you recognize that, okay, maybe I don't know as much as this person, but you don't want to doubt yourself too much, but just having that hunger that it's pretty clear that you've got. So Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it was Marcelo. Yeah, I'm sure you're not the only one who feels like that. Any other questions from the crowd?
Was it civil engineering or civil and environmental engineering?
It was civil and environmental engineering that my undergrad I did.
Yeah.
And then what brought you to choose the environmental part?
So I think that was the only program that UC Berkeley offered. I was thinking about going to Cal Poly because they have a construction program. But like I said, I just kept hearing stories about how hard it is and how it's going to make you so much better. So I've always been kind of the kind of person that just jumps into something and I learned to either sink or swim. And fortunately, I've been swimming. So I went, and I'm actually glad I did that because I feel like construction alone, you just get caught up in the money. Where having these courses in environmental engineering, you get to learn about how our actions affect, the environment and what are the best practices that you can apply to prevent damaging the environment. So
That's excellent. Do we have any civil engineering students here considering? Yeah. Anyone? Yeah, so we got a couple students considering it as well. Do you have any like advice for them in terms of like what classes they should maybe take outside of civil that could also help them? I know we like sometimes like programming classes. Are there anything like that you might think of like, hey, while you're at it, maybe it's not a standard part of the path, but you found valuable?
Yeah. I mean, if you really, there is a couple coding classes that you'll have to do. I personally was horrible at it, but I got it. I was able to pass and do well.
Yeah, E7.
It was a tough time for me, but I mean that's the thing about the civil engineering program. You get exposed to so much, so it's kind of hard because you get exposed to materials, you get exposed to coding, to statics, to water resource management. It's just a big mix of everything. So that by the time you go through the program, you can decide like, do I want to go into construction? Do I want to go into environmental? Do I want to work with the properties of materials like in concrete? So it's it's various ways to go. But so yeah, I guess there really isn't I guess anything you could do to prepare you besides internships. I wish I would have done a lot of them before I transferred because it would not only make the material easier to comprehend, but it opens a lot of doors as well when companies come trying to recruit you for jobs.
And when you're doing these recruitments, were you finding are career fairs? Are these something? How are you looking?
Yeah.
What should these students be? Because you're saying you kind of wish you had a little bit, maybe more of that. I think I could probably speak for myself as well. That was my case, but
Yeah. So before that, I had no. I mean, like I said, I was 20. How old was I? I was 33 when I transferred to Berkeley. So to me, like this whole internship thing, I had no idea what it was. So unfortunately, I was unable to do them. But then while you're going to school at Berkeley, they have a bunch of career fairs every semester, and companies come out and talk to you. So they kind of let you know in advance that they're coming out. And if I can give any tip, is that what I realized at first after attending my first couple, I go dress sharp and very sweaty and serious, and I wouldn't get anything in return, no phone calls in return. And what I realized is that, I mean, I still dress nice, but I would go there with the mindset that I'm going to go talk and make a friend. So, and with that, oh man, everybody, you start building, relationships, and you start talking and laughing, and then, oh yeah, we'll call you. And they did call me, and then, oh, we got this set up for you and that set up for you. So that's a big tip that I could give you guys.
Can I put a plug in for internships? I'm gonna put in the chat for those of you a list of all the internships that we have on our website at CSM that you guys could start looking into or applying to, because they do want community college students. Or, if myself or Jose sends you information about internships, go ahead and apply, because I think they're out there. So I'll put the link in the chat. We updated it recently, so it should have all the current internships available and when they're due.
Got a question from Heidi.
Yeah, so, Humberto, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about like your experience with T-Prep and the community, that you built at UC Berkeley. I know that, and I'm speaking for myself as well, UC Berkeley could be a scary place, you know, like just applying to it, it's kind of like, you think about it, am I even worth going there, like, and then when you get there, building that community, like, what was that like for you?
You know, at first it was very nerve wracking because you don't know anybody, right? And all you keep hearing is stories about how difficult and it's going to be so difficult. And I got completely like sucked into that. But with T-Prep, like it's just some random people that transfer with you. And at first everybody's kind of afraid to talk, but they have like throughout, I think it's like a 3-week program, like every day you're doing something. So you're always around these students and you start building relationships with them. And I think the end of that, if I remember correctly, the end of T-Prep, you had to present to like representatives from like Chevron, Disney, other corporations, an invention that you want to pitch. And so you end up spending a lot of times with the group to try to, come up with this. But I think, so that's like in the beginning, right? And then once school starts, you don't know anybody and these classrooms are huge and full of people. So you automatically just sit next to each other, to get that comfort. And then little by little, the weeks pass and then you slowly just start becoming really good friends. And hey, I'm stuck on this problem. I don't know what to do. Oh, don't worry, here, let's talk about it. And then we all get together, like 5, 6 people, and we sit there and talk. Obviously you're not cheating, but you're working together to find a solution. And then if you're hungry, you just go down to the ESS center where there's people who were in the T-Prep program, the transfer before you, and you meet those people and, and they help you. And then the tutors there help you and there's food for you. And they're constantly bringing in speakers, I think, as well to talk to you and motivate you. And there's opportunities, so it's a very, very great program. And if you get the opportunity to do it, I suggest that you really take advantage of it. I don't know if that answered your question, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you, definitely. I wanted to point that out, that, you will find that community and be that friendship that you were speaking about, that, they become long-term relationships and that comfort. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jordan had a question.
I'm not actually sure if this is too personal to ask. Have you ever felt like you gaslit yourself into saying that you want to become an engineer? Like you tell yourself like later on, like, did I really want to become an engineer?
That's a really good question.
I'll be honest. I have felt that way. I felt like halfway through, I was like, man, this is really what I want to do. Like, why did I even choose this? But to me, I've been a firm believer, like if you start something, you finish it. And I mean, and then there was times, like I said, where I doubt it, but now I'm so happy that I stuck with it because I do enjoy it now. Right. And I mean, there's times I'm like, maybe I should have studied this. I should have studied that, but I am very pleased with it. And the job security with engineering, you will have a job for the rest of your life. And it's a very rewarding job and the pay is very, very nice. But yeah, I did at times question, is this what I really want to do? But I'm happy I did it.
Yeah, that's really good question. Thanks for sharing yours. And I think, Jordan, you're probably not the only one who sometimes wonders on your own motivation, whether it's engineering, whether it's you're doing pre-med, whatever it is, sometimes you might be feeling like you're doing it not necessarily for the wrong reasons, but it's like, okay, I feel like this is what I have to do because this is a prestigious degree or whatever. And whatever you get, if you stick it out, even if you don't end up in engineering or in medicine, getting a degree from a 4-year school is worth a lot, and you're always going to have options.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's been the biggest thing because now, let's say if I lose interest in engineering, that backup plan is always there, and that, yeah, like I'll never have to go work, which is nothing wrong, right? Like having like a fast food job, like that's never going to happen anymore because I had to put in the time, to do this. So if you question it, there's obviously a reason why, but I highly encourage you to just keep pushing through, because in anything you want to do in life, you're going to question it eventually. But you just have to keep going, just keep believing, and just keep going. And before you know it, you'll be there, and you'll thank yourself a lot for it.
Thank you.
Good question.
You said you're gonna start a business. What's your business plan again?
Yeah. So my good friend Shannon, who I met in T Prep, her father owns a heavy civil construction company in Santa Barbara. So he is getting older. He's getting ready to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. So she wants to be on design, and our friend Myra, who's also in T Prep, they both want to design, and I'm going to be more project management contractor. So we're going to take over and slowly start implementing, learning how he runs the business and take that over, and start doing some heavy civil, some bridges in Santa Barbara, or repairs.
JC, were you having I thought I saw a question coming up from this region. Not yet. Are there any things that in civil you could, because I know some of the path, I'm not a civil, I'm a mechanical engineer. It's somewhat different. I know that you're going to need to take like the FE and the PE, and can you lay out some of that roadmap of like some things if students are considering a civil engineer, maybe what they need to start to think of? And like, did you take the GRE, all those kinds of, these are things that, how did you balance that while you're also taking classes? That seems difficult.
Okay. So luckily for me, the GRE, when I went to the master's program, they removed it. And I think they've banned it now from all universities, I think, which is nice. As far as like the PE, I know the FE you can take while you're in school. I think you sign up and you can just take it at any time. The PE, you have to have about 2 years of experience, I believe, before you can even start taking it. I haven't taken the FE because I don't know if I'm going to go into designing. I am really into project management and being that contractor that everybody hates because he's the contractor, right? But in watching them, they were able to, I think it's like you set an appointment, you have like a month and a half to start studying, and they were able to do it like with flying colors, like it was nothing. So I don't think it took a lot of time from them, because they kept saying, come on, do it. And I wish I would have, but I highly recommend that you do it like maybe 2 semesters before you graduate, because that way the material is fresh in your mind and it'll be really easy to recollect.
Thank you for that perspective.
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, coming in from Carlos. Oh, hi, Carlos. What are some interview questions that most companies or internships ask? Like, is there anything you should be prepared to answer?
Yeah, well, when you first initially talk to them, they just want to get to know who you are. But once they set up the interview and they call you, they want to know who you are, what you like to do. Give them an example of a time where you had to be a leader, and a time where you had to deal with conflict and how you overcame that. And the most recent one that I received was, what did he say? He said, so we're talking about construction, and he said, having all these responsibilities, you were at Disney Construction, you had to wear multiple hats. Like, how did you know what to do first, what was more important, what was least important? And I said, honestly, I'd have to write you a paper on it. I don't know, I just do it. And they really like that answer. So that, I mean, it's more, like I said, the questions are more personality based. So they want to get to know you. They want to know if you're a good fit for their company. So they're not crazy.
just to piggyback on that, because you're saying some of these questions are somewhat, I guess, ones that you might expect to get, like, are you, like, can you demonstrate your leadership, or what's the problem you overcome? Are you coming in with these with, not, I don't want to say canned answers, but kind of already in your head where you, or is it more you're relaxed and you know where these like you're letting the conversation take? Do you have any like tips for the students? Like, is this something they should already have an answer in mind, like an elevator pitch?
Well, so it's not, to me, it wasn't an elevator pitch. I used a lot of my immigration situation, right? And I was very relaxed. It wasn't like, I wasn't trying to impress them. I said, look, this is what happened. This is how I overcame it. And then when I was at an internship that I did, there was a gentleman who we'd be working out in the hot sun, and he was the manager, and he would go in his truck and turn on the AC, and we sit in there. So they asked how I overcame that, and I said, look, I started making sure that when I got done doing my task, I jumped on the next guy's task and helped him out. Then he helped him, and we just kept that going. And then that, that's the way that we overcame that. And eventually that guy got let go, and they put me as a construction lead. So, I mean, just showing how, how you deal with tough situations, how you deal with adversity, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. And just be you. You don't put too much thought into giving the perfect answer. Like I said, when you talk to them like like if somebody just met in the street that you're like, oh, we kind of connect, like let's be friends. That's what I've done, and that's worked. And I've passed that on to other classmates, and they started doing that, and they started getting offers. So
excellent. Thank you for that. And thanks for the question, Carlos. Let's see. Maybe let's have any questions. I want to circle back into something that you touched about on, like, building your community. And I think as a community college transfer students, you transfer, and you've kind of only, part of your community is the faculty that you need to make a connection with.
yes.
Were you able to, could you give any advice? It's kind of intimidating to speak to faculty, but you're going to need their, like, letters of recommendation. But instead of being a freshman who you had their freshman seminar with, you've only got maybe one or so semesters to impress them. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I had Professor Armero, who you might know. He's a very intimidating man. People are very scared of him, and I would just go to his office hours, and nobody would go like, "Can you go and ask him this and ask him that?" I'm like, "Come with me." No, I can't. And I'm like, "No, just let's go." But nobody would. So I would go, and I have to admit, at first he was a little rough, but after like the fourth or fifth time, Humberto, come on in, sit down, let's talk. And he'd be like, oh, so if you look at this problem, if you do it this way, it's much easier than the way I did it in class. And I'm like, whoa, what? So I just started, I started coming around more, and he just completely opened up. I'm actually now, as a master's student, he's giving me a job full time so that I can work. So that's how it's crazy, because I just, building that relationship with other professors, same thing. I just show up. And you just go to office hours, and you always want to, when you have questions, don't just ask there, like really think about what you want to ask and make sure it's a really great question, but it's really well thought out, and you just ask them. And then I used to just study on the 7th floor outside their office. So even if I didn't ask questions, they would see me and they get familiar with me. And so now I can see them like walk. I've had professors who I kind of forgot of walk by me outside of campus, like, Humberto, how's it going? And I'm like, what? I'm like, you know my name? It's like, yeah, how's it going, man? I'm like, oh, it's going good. I've even had a beer with professors outside of campus. Like we hang out. And it's like, just because you go around, and I can imagine, they're in their office all the time. They probably get bored. So they just want, they want somebody to talk to as well. So, but yeah, so in doing that, when I went to apply for my master's, it was so easy to be like, I was like, hey, would you mind? Oh, no, please. Yeah, I'll definitely write you a letter, because they know that you worked hard in their class, and they know you. They get a sense of who you are. So it makes it a lot easier to get those letters.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. And it takes courage, right? It takes courage. And especially when you're at the 4-year school, the classes are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So for the fact for your professor to remember your name, that goes a long way to say they
Yeah.
actually do care. That's the thing is I think there is somewhat of a misconception that those faculty, and it is true, they have like lots of research that they have to do and grants and a whole bunch of other things where your faculty here, we have the greatest life, we just get to teach, and that's all we do. But they have got a lot going on, but at the same time, they're doing it also for you. They're invested in you. So you just got to go there and ask your question, right?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, don't get caught up.
Yeah.
'Cause I know people who got caught up in being afraid and they never interacted. And like you can see the difference it makes. But once you graduate and you go on to work, you're gonna have to interact with people. So you just start practicing now. And I think community college was like the best thing for me because it allowed me to interact with professors. I got comfortable doing that. So the community college path is honestly it's the greatest thing. And when I have kids, they're going to do the same thing because it really you get to have friends, you get to talk to professors. And when you go there, you're more social than a lot of these kids that just went straight from high school. So it has you guys have an advantage being a transfer student.
Let's see. Any other questions from the crowd? Yeah.
So did you ever wish you spent more time working on like school, or do you ever wish that you spent less time having more fun or like leisure time? Or did you find a good balance of both?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question because when I first got there, again, with everything I was going through and the rigor and all these stories they tell you, I got really afraid and I spent so much time studying, and I drove myself into the ground. And that's where I started to break. And what I've learned now, and then in my last year in my undergrad, is just like study for a little while, go out and do something fun with your friends. I mean, you can't hang out all night, right? But an hour, and that's going to reset your mind. It's going to make you happy. It's going to put you in the right mindset to study. And go back, get your homework done. But don't. One thing I learned was that, and I learned it at the very end, which was a bummer, but school is just a part of your life. It's not your entire life. So balance, it's all about balance.
Yeah, really good question, Jason. And yeah, that's a really good wisdom. Really, you can drive yourself into the ground, and at some point, you're spinning your wheels. You're stuck in the mud. So you gotta take a reset. Whether it's whatever you said, play guitar, go walk your dog, play Minecraft, whatever it is that you can reset and find a balance of something that can give you some sort of balance. And you're always looking, you never just like find it and then it's done.
Yeah, no, never. I read a quote from Albert Einstein, and I think about it every day when I'm studying, even until now. And he says, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And so I'm like flustered and I walk away and I come back later and then the answer comes to me. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So yeah, balance and just balance. It's not all about school. It's about your experience there, the people you're going to meet. So, and the memories you're going to make.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Got another question here?
Are you still friends with anybody from your high school days or whenever you were in?
No.
Any of those people, do they know what you're doing now?
Yeah, well, Napa is a very small town, so people have heard my story and people that are my age, and I've actually motivated. I've had to reach out almost 20 people that have gone to school now and like got a career because they're so inspired by me. But the people that I used to hang out with, I don't, because in life, you don't lose friends, you outgrow them, and I don't want to be associated with people like that anymore. I'm on a different path now, so you kind of have to put that away. But the people that they're still trying. I mean, yeah, I go back and I hang out with them, but I don't try to get too involved anymore because, like I said, we're on a different path now, right? Where I'm trying to achieve great things in life, so you got to surround yourself with people now that are driven and want the same thing.
Awesome. Thank you for that question and for that perspective too. I think we probably got time for maybe one more if anybody wants to ask a Another question?
Jose, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you, or could you describe a day? What's a typical day for you? Like either, when you were working or right now as a graduate student?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was working, so in construction, you have to get there, you have to be there at 7, but you have to get there at 6:30 a.m. So I wake up at 5, get my meals ready for the day, and I go there, have a team meeting, talk to the craft, so all the construction workers, let them know what they're going to be doing, go over safety, and then I would walk in and start going away at emails, getting stuff, planning the delivery of materials, equipment, the next scope of works that are coming up, and then after that, then you walk outside, go check on the work. Sometimes they have questions for you, so you bring out the construction drawings, or you have your little math that you do, and you give them the information, and then yeah, it's a lot just in and out of the trailer all the time, which I love. I love being outside. I really enjoy being on the field. So that's what it was for construction. As far as a graduate student now, like this semester, I have Monday and Wednesday off, which has been a blessing. But the assignments aren't as long as they were in the undergrad. You're working more in a team environment. So there's a lot of reports, but you're working on them together. And so for me, right now, I'm really big into bodybuilding. So I put that more in the school right now, unfortunately, but I shouldn't. That's kind of my priority. So, but yeah, so Monday, I still wake up at 6 a.m. So I wake up, first 3 hours, I try to knock out as much homework as I can, go to the gym, come back. Then on the next class, try to work on that. Then I stop because, again, you don't want to burn yourself out. You want balance. And I do stuff that I enjoy for the rest of the day. Then Tuesday, I have 2 classes. I wake up early, work on some homework, go to the gym, come back, go to 2 classes. And that day, I don't do anything after I get out, because it's about 6 o'clock when I get out. So I go to bed at 9. So I just kind of let my brain just relax. And today, same thing as Monday. And then tomorrow and Friday are the same thing as Tuesdays. And then on the weekends, I don't work out on the weekends. So those days I really spend a lot of time doing homework Saturday and Sunday, but I give myself about 4 hours of hangout time every Saturday and Sunday. And then it kind of just repeats again. Because yeah, like I said, it's just a part of our life. It's not our life. So balance. I got to experience what it was like driving myself into the ground, having insomnia. That's the last thing I want to do to myself again.
And since you talk about balance, which one do you find easier to balance, when you were in school or now that you're in the workforce? Not a tricky question. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, so I'm still in school. I'm not in the workforce yet, but I think I'd have to say school now. After I went to work for this company, I feel like school got so much easier because I had to wear so many hats and I got exposed to so much. And I was like, wow, this is harder than Berkeley. And so I was like, no way. So then I felt like quitting. I didn't, because I don't believe in it. I stuck with it. And then I just was able to manage and take on so much. So coming here now, I'm just like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I can do this, I can do that. And I'm able to manage time. Managing your time is one of the most important things you will ever do, along with communication. Like, learn how to do that now, set your calendars. But yeah, managing your time is such an important quality to have.
Awesome. Thank you for that, guys. I think that's our time. Let's give our speaker one more warm round of applause.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for your time, Humberto.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, well then with that, we'll conclude our first one. Thanks again, Humberto. We really appreciate your perspective. And if students wanted to reach out to you, could they send you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so Olivia, I think we'll be able to disseminate that.
Yeah.
If you have any follow-up questions. Yeah, I have one question. What's your favorite place to eat in Berkeley? Before we let you go.
So it was Ivy's, which is on Durant. He's big, but I've been on a strict diet for the last year and a half, so I haven't been able to eat that anymore. But if you go to Ivy's, it is really, really, really good.
Awesome.
I might do a cheat day and go down there actually. So
Nice. There we go. Thanks for the recommendation. Awesome.
All
Have a
right.
good evening.
You as well. Thank you so much again.
Thanks for our audience in the Zoom too as well. Awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you.